A boy named Rayhan loses every job he applies for, but refuses to give up. A mother's words become his hope. A friend's support becomes his strength. From rejection to faith, from silence to success, this is the journey of one ordinary boy who proves that patience is never wasted. Rayhan sat in his small room, facing his old laptop. On the screen it said, "We regret to inform you that your application was not selected." His heart felt heavy, eyes filled with disappointment. It was the third time he had been rejected. That night, Rayhan watched his dream fall apart once again. But somewhere deep inside, a small spark of hope was still alive. From the kitchen, his mother's voice came, "Beta, have you eaten something?" Rayhan looked away from the laptop and quietly replied, "Just filling another form, Emmy." Her voice carried the comfort that no other relationship in the world could give. He opened the application form for Bright Future Technology. The fee was 50 rupees. He checked his pocket, only a single 50 rupee note. He paused for a moment, then whispered, "Sometimes you have to take the risk." That evening, Rayhan went to the cyber cafe and submitted the form. The screen read, "Application submit." He took a deep breath and smiled faintly. Outside, the cool evening breeze touched his face. At that moment, Rayhan felt maybe fate had something else written for him. Days went by slowly. Every morning, Rayhan woke up with the same hope. Maybe today there would be a message. He unlocked his phone again and again, scrolling through the notifications. But there was nothing. The sunlight filled his room, yet his heart stayed dim. Sometimes time moves forward, but people remain stuck in their waiting. One afternoon, Samir came to visit. The two friends sat on the small sofa in the living room. Samir leaned forward and said, "Why don't you work with me for a while? Deliveries part-time. At least you'll stay busy." Rayhan gave a faint smile, greater than, "Maybe I'll think about it, bro." Even in silence, true friends bring a small spark of strength. That evening, his mother was standing in the kitchen, rolling chapatis. Rayhan sat nearby, lost in thought. She glanced at him and said gently, "Beta, when one door closes, another one opens. Don't lose heart." Rayhan didn't reply, but those words sank deep into his chest. He quietly watched the kitchen light flicker on the wall and thought, maybe Ami's right. Maybe my door is just not open yet. The next morning, while walking down the narrow street, his eyes caught a bright poster on a wall. Bright Future Technologies. Walk-in interviews, today only. For a moment, his heartbeat stopped, then raced. He looked at the sky, took a deep breath, and whispered, "Greater than, maybe this is it." He grabbed his old file and ran. When life gives you even the smallest chance, don't think twice. Just run toward it. His name echoed in the small office room. Rayhan stood up, holding his file tightly, and walked toward the interviewer's desk. The interviewer glanced at his papers and said, "You don't have much experience, do you?" Rayhan looked straight ahead, calm but determined. "Greater than, maybe not," he replied softly, "but I have the passion to learn." The interviewer smiled faintly. It was the kind of answer that didn't come from books, but from struggle. Sometimes courage speaks louder than a resume. A few days later, Rayhan was sitting at home when his phone buzzed. The screen lit up. "Congratulations, you've been selected." For a second, he froze, staring at the screen. Then with a burst of joy, he shouted, "Ami, I got the job!" From the kitchen, his mother turned around in surprise and then smiled, her eyes glistening with tears. Rayhan rushed to her, holding the phone out like a trophy. She placed her hand on his head, whispering, "I told you, Beta. Allah never forgets those who keep trying." That moment wasn't just happiness, it was peace, relief, and faith all at once. A week later, Rayhan met Samir at their usual tea stall. The night air was warm and the steam from the cups curled into the streetlight glow. Samir laughed. "See? I told you, your luck would change." Rayhan smiled and looked down at his tea. "Greater than, it wasn't luck, Samir, it was patience." Both friends laughed quietly, their reflections shimmering on the metal counter. The next morning, Rayhan walked through the same street again, but this time, an office ID card hung proudly around his neck. He stopped for a second, looked up at the sky, and said softly,